Welcome to another episode of In the Living Room with Stephanie Lopez. My special guest today is Bridget Fuller Grace. Bridget, affectionately called Bree, as a show she hosts on Sundays on Facebook and YouTube called Heart to Heart with Bree. Please support her channel. Thank you. My topic today is called Experiencing God's Favor. Before we begin to talk on this topic, I'm going to ask Bree to say a very short prayer to introduce our show. Bree, will you?
Yes. Dear Lord, I pray that those who are meant to listen to this episode, to view this episode, Lord, I pray that they will do so. And Lord, may the words that Stephanie and I speak tonight come from you. And Lord, may we always remember that we represent you at all times, Lord. And Lord, we just thank you for the blessing of podcasting and being a part of your ministry to spread your message of love throughout the world. Amen.
Amen. Again, welcome, Bree.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about your show, Heart to Heart with Bree.
Okay, my show, Heart to Heart with Bree, it's a conversation with a different guests every week. Now, I do have a high school friend, Andrew. He comes on the first and fifth Sundays of the month. He's a regular. And I have there's a couple, Frank and Heather Anderson. They're regular guests also. But I have guests who have been friends, lifelong friends. And then I've met friends along the way who have come on as guests. And my goal is always to have a conversation from the heart. I always want the viewers to walk away with knowledge and understanding of whatever trial they may be going through. We cover various topics. They're usually biblical, but even if they're not, you can still see the love of Christ. That's always my goal, to overcome and to know that you never give up. Always trust God.
That's so good. That sounds so much like my intention too,
Yes.
because we want to spread the word of God in our way. And in
Yes.
my case, I'm in the living room and and you're having a heart to heart, which is
Yes.
yeah,
Very similar, very similar.
let's get down to the meat of it a little bit now. Bree, where were you born? Where are you
I
from?
was I was born in London, England.
Oh, so you're a British person.
Yes, I was born in London, England. London is my favorite city. I still I've I've lived in the United States now since 1981, but in my heart I still feel very British.
So you went to school primarily in England then?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I moved to Jamaica when I was just about 11 years old.
Oh, okay. That is good. And then did you go primary school a little bit in Jamaica?
I attended Hill Prep. I
Okay.
attended Hill Prep and then I went to Titchfield.
And then
And
Titchfield.
well, previous to that, I went to Comfort Castle All Age School.
Oh,
That's in an area. Well, Comfort Castle is up in the country, and it was an experience, but it was a good one. My aunt was a teacher there,
mhm.
and then I ended up going to Hill Prep, which was really a great experience,
Yeah.
which eventually led to Titchfield.
Okay. So it wasn't because your parents migrated, went back to
My
live.
mom, well, my parents split up, and that's why we moved to
Okay.
Jamaica.
Okay. So are your parents Jamaican? Are
Both
they?
of my parents are Jamaican. My mom is from an area called Cornwall Barracks, but she grew up at Ginger House. And my dad is from Moortown. They're both Maroons.
Okay. Oh, I'm a maroon too. My
Okay.
mother is maroon. What keeps you going, Bree?
God. I would have to say God. Life has had its ups and downs. And if I did not have faith in God, to be honest with you, I would have given up a long time ago. But
Yeah.
I would definitely say my faith in God and my children and my grandson, they give me the will to keep pushing forward.
Yes, that's so true. That's so important. We have to have a reason for living.
Yes, we do.
And what keeps you up at nights?
So many things.
Yeah.
I had to get to a point where I had to really do some soul searching
Mm-hmm.
because since childhood, I will say that I was always one that worried, was just, always filled with anxiety, worrying about the things to come. And I went through a vicious cycle of just always worrying about finances, just worrying about everyday things. And it really came to a point where it was just too much. And that's where I had to really rely on my faith, do some praying about it. And I've learned that, we may not understand the way God works sometimes.
Right,
There's that scripture that says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding.
right.
And I'm truly developing an understanding of that. I am learning that when I say my prayer before I go to bed, I have to leave the troubles in that prayer with God
Mm-hmm.
and trust him for how he will work things out. I've had the habit of trying to control life, and
Yeah,
you would think by now I would learn that I don't have the ability to do so. So I'm learning more and more to let go and to let God, and because at the end of the day, his ways are so much better than ours. And it's just for us to trust him, learn to let go, and
yeah,
just
absolutely.
one day at a time.
Absolutely. Sounds so much like myself.
Yes.
Oh, I decided that what is done cannot be undone. So based on that, and as you said, I have also decided or determined that I can't change. My future, my life is in God's hand.
Yes.
Yes. So I just stop worrying, And I know our children cause that too, because you would think that when they're kids, you would worry, but you find that you worry more so.
It's true, but what I have learned is that they are now adults. So I have to allow them to be adults, make their own decisions and stop interfering.
Mm-hmm.
I may not agree with certain things, but I wanted to live my life when I was a young adult, and now I have to allow my children to do the same.
We are on target.
It's hard, but you know what? It's sometimes, you have to allow them to make the mistakes.
Yes,
But all we can do is pray for them. And that's what I've learned. I have to pray for them. That's the best that I can do
that's
because
all.
my job has been done.
That's exactly how I look at it too. What's the best part about being you then? What's the best part?
I think the best part about being me right now is I'm on a journey of healing and learning.
Yes.
I really have embraced God in a whole new way. So my mind is really open to healing. My
Mm-hmm.
mind is open to love. And when I say love, it's if I would have spoken to you a few years ago, I would have been caught up in the notion of romantic love. But
Yes.
now it's like I just see life in such a different way.
Yes.
And that's what I celebrate. And I think that's the best part about being who I am now because I've learned some tough lessons. And I think it's what you do with those tough lessons. And I've applied them to my life. I've learned them and I've learned them well. It took me a long time, but it's allowed me to grow.
Yes. And is there anything I didn't have, is there anything from this you think that your children would have learned from you?
If my
But
children have learned anything from me, I would hope that it's resilience.
yes.
And I hope that it's also about having a relationship with God. I'm honest with them about, the struggles, but I've also been honest with them about what I believe God has done for me in this life.
You have friends. You just mentioned some, those who you have. What's your longest friendships?
Oh my gosh. My longest friendships are actually those in England. I still have friends that I had in primary school
Mm-hmm,
in the 70s. I
mm-hmm.
still have some of those friends. I think back to my 60th birthday, and I got birthday messages from some of my primary school friends. And I just thought, wow, isn't that amazing that I still have these friendships? So
Yes,
those are the friendships that go back the furthest.
yes. And if I may speak on that too for myself, I
Yes.
have some friends I have had for over 50 years,
So you can
primary
relate.
school too, primary school too. And my friend who lives in the state was telling me that her co-workers marvel over this long-term friendship because they don't have that sort of friendship.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just because we lived in that time, but we lived in a period of time when playing outside and formulating friendship and that sort of bond was more than it is today.
I would definitely agree with you on
Yeah.
that. I mean, think about it. We grew up during the time when there was no Facebook,
Yes,
there was no social media.
yes,
And, we actually, like you said, we went outside to play. We actually read books.
yes,
We did. It was just a different time and a different way of life. But I would definitely say I cherish all my long-term friendships. I
yes,
cherish the newer friendships, but there's nothing like that familiar
friend
person
that
that you've
family.
known all these years. And it's so funny, but when I speak to my friends that I've had since childhood, when
Yes,
we communicate, it's like I'm seeing them as they were back then. I don't know if you have had the same experience, but that's how it's been for me.
it is, it's true. And the thing is, we can go for months and months without speaking. But when we begin to speak, everything, we have no animosity. I
It's true.
find that some of the friends we have, oh, if you don't call me, I'm not calling you. If you don't call me, I'm not. That kind of thing with these long-term friendships we have, they don't care. We call them when we can
Right.
and we bond just the same. It's there,
It's
it's just
true.
something about it.
It's true. I went through a period where I just disconnected from everything and everyone. And I would say it was about 3 years.
Yes.
And I actually changed my phone number. And one of my really good friends, Maxine, I'll never forget, she asked me, why did I, she said, you just fell off the face of the earth and I
Yeah.
didn't have your number. And I kept reaching out, but she didn't realize I changed my number. And I felt really bad because she's been such a great friend. And
Yes.
I told her the truth. I said, to be honest with you, there is no explanation. I was just going through a difficult time. But
Yes.
she understood. And I think it really helped our friendship become even stronger.
Yes.
So like you said, there are those, if they're really your friend, they'll understand.
If they're really your friends. Yes. Yes. So do you formulate friends, your short-term friendship, medium-term friendship from church and any other place? Do you have your friends?
I've made some friends in church, but
Yes.
to be honest with you, Stephanie, and it's something I've not really shared, but it's
Yes.
like for the past few years, I've not actually attended church. I still believe in God, as you all know. My
Yes.
podcast is based on my belief in God, but I needed to take a step back from a lot of things. And I went on a journey of solitude.
Yes.
And it helped me with my relationship with God. I
Mhm.
needed it to be separate from everything. And, now I am considering returning, but it's like I have to feel ready. But it was just, all that I had been through.
Mhm.
It was hard to make sense of life. It was hard to make sense of what was taking place. And to be honest with you, I got to a place where I just did not feel safe, if that makes sense. And I
Yeah.
don't want to hurt anyone's feelings in the church or anywhere like that. It's nothing personal, but it's just my personal journey. But
Yeah.
I needed to retreat and just find myself again.
It's true. I find too that the short-term friends that you have, I think there's still a period of time when they try to find you and you try to find them. Are they real, genuine friends or not?
Yes.
And I spoke with one of these young men recently. He said to me that you can't even make friends in the church because they go and they talk and they gossip about you, and you can't tell them anything because it goes all around. So it's true. I have that same thing too. I don't know. I really don't. You have to, maybe one day somebody has to interview to get into me really deeply.
No, right, no, I trust me, I understand what you're saying, and I do miss like
Mhm.
being in church because that was my life for for many years.
Yes.
But I just got to a point where when I would go to church, as I sat in there, I just felt uncomfortable. And it had nothing to do with the church itself or the people. It was just where my mind was at the time. I
Yes.
would go into church, I would sit there for 15 minutes and just leave.
Yeah.
But I think it was just tied into too many memories.
Yes. I
And I
think
needed
so.
to, sort that out.
Yes. We'll come around to some of that memories.
Yes.
Yeah. So therefore, have you ever experienced jealousy then? Jealousy with friends or with families?
To be honest with you, I don't know what they would be jealous of.
Uh,
I would just have to say that. So if I've experienced jealousy, I can't really say I've noticed it.
Yes. It's like me too. I don't care.
Right.
I don't care. And what about if I were to ask you, have you ever been betrayed?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have. And it was very difficult. And I would say it happened to me several times by people I really cherished.
Mm-hmm.
But I think betrayal can be a good thing because it lets you know who your true friends are. It lets you know the people that you don't need to have in your life. And I would say to those who have experienced betrayal, don't waste your time on thinking about the act. Just try to grow from it, learn from it. I
Yeah.
think it was very painful, but as I processed it and as time went on, I was able to let it go. And I think it helped me to be a better judge of character. And it helps me to really not be so open as far as letting people into my life. You have to be careful of who you let into your circle. I talk about that all the time. And
Yes.
to be honest with you, not everyone belongs in your life. It's okay to have
Absolutely.
acquaintances, but not everyone is your friend. Of course, we share the love of Christ, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, not everyone has good intentions. And
Absolutely.
once I have discovered that you do not have good intentions as far as I'm concerned, then I will leave you alone. I can say hello to you. I don't have any ill will or any malice or anything like that towards you.
Yeah.
But I know there's a boundary line that you will not cross. And that's just the way it is. I know that as a Christian, like I said, we're supposed to love our fellow man. And I can love my fellow man, but there are some I can love from a distance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so true. So what's the best part of being you?
The best part about being me right now is just the desire to grow. And as I said earlier, the desire to learn and the desire to experience life in a whole new way, on
Mhm.
a totally different level. Because I'm the type of person that as you get older, like in my younger day, oh my gosh, if I was home on a Friday or a Saturday night, it was like the end of the world for me. I just had to be out there. And
Yeah.
then for years, it's like just wanted to be home. I'm a homebody. I like to read. I just like to chill out at home. But
Mhm.
now that desire is coming back to see the world, to meet new people and experience new things. And I think that's a great thing to especially being 60 years old.
Yes. Absolutely. And now we get to that part. What are some of your worst life experiences?
I would say the first one that I could think back to is like when my family split up, when my parents went their separate ways. At the end of the day, my mother made the right decision. She really did. I'm old enough to remember a lot of things that, she experienced things that no woman should ever experience.
Right.
And, my mom to me is such a brave woman,
Yeah.
for her to take the chance that she did. She
Mhm.
was the mother of four young children. She was in her early 30s.
Mhm.
And, my dad went to work one day and she took us to Jamaica. He came
Yeah.
home from work and we were gone.
Wow.
And that was a tough decision for her to make. But at the end of the day, she made the right decision.
Right.
I have found myself later in life, grieving the end of that family unit. When it was good, it was good. When
Yes.
it was bad, it was bad. So I would never be upset with my mom. In fact, I'm very thankful to her for what she did because she saved us. We needed to be out of that toxic environment. But
Mhm.
that was like a heartache. My father died a couple years ago, and
Mhm.
I wish he would have known me as an adult. You know, when I turned 41, I was actually over in England.
Mhm.
And what I noticed was that my dad was stuck in time. He was treating me like I was a 10-year-old. And I had to realize, well, the last time he saw you, you were 10, But at the time, I was in my 40s.
Mhm.
And it was just difficult. He didn't know me the way my mom does.
Yes.
And that was like one of the hurtful things because I think we could have had a really good relationship.
Yes.
So that is something that, I would say to the couples out there, you know, if your marriage is rocky, you can work it out if you really want to, but both people have to have that desire,
Absolutely.
and at the end of the day, women are at a place now where they're not willing to take that abuse. They're not willing to, just settle, and this was like in the 70s. I always think my mom was ahead of her time in what she did, so that's one of the painful memories. But
Yes.
I would say if you had to ask me what my most painful memory is, it's definitely the loss of my son.
Yes.
That it's been 8 years.
Irreversible.
It's been 8 years, but I can tell you when I go to bed,
Mhm.
that's the last thing. He's the last thing I think about when I wake up. He's the first thing that comes to mind. It never leaves me. I've learned to carry on. I've learned to, accept it. But at
Yes.
the end of the day, he's still my child and I still mourn his loss. And it's very tough. He died on the 28th of January, 10 days, 10 years to the day that my grandmother who had died. And I had a very close relationship with my grandmother. So my son dying on that day, I just said to myself, there's a message in that somehow. I just had to, how can I put it? I was in shock because it was sudden.
Yes.
It was from an asthma attack, and he died at home.
Mhm.
I do believe I experienced post-traumatic stress disorder, because it's like when I went to work, I didn't know he was in his room dead. And when I came home from work to see the police, the fire truck out there, and the ambulance, it was a very overwhelming shock. And sometimes I still say to myself, oh my gosh, I can't believe Demetrius is dead. And it took me a long time to even say that he is dead. you
Yeah.
know I used to say he had passed on. For some reason it just seemed like it made it a little easier. But
Mhm.
it's, as a mother in the in the scheme of life to outlive your child. It doesn't feel natural, but I have to trust God in it and just accept that it's happened. There's nothing I can do to change it. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't want to question God. I didn't want to admit that I questioned God,
Mhm.
but deep down I did, because I couldn't understand. I was going through a divorce at the time, and that in itself was rough.
Mhm.
So to add that on top of it, it was brutal. I'll just put it like that. And it really, I want to say, to be honest with you, I believe that I had a mental breakdown along the way. I just couldn't fathom that my son was no longer here. But, he believed in God. And, I would like to say to parents out there, even when you struggle with your children, always remember to show them that you love them. You can be frustrated with them, but always let them know that they are loved. I tell you, I questioned myself so much when my son died. Like, did he know that I loved him? Could I have made a difference? Could I have changed things? But I had to just let that go and give that to God and able to move on, because it's I went through a period where I was remembering the disagreements, the frustrations that we had with each other. But God helped me along the way in that, because it was miserable. I can tell you that.
Mhm. I can imagine, because that's one of the things I had in mind too, to think, to ask you, um, if there's anything that happened that you think, any particular incident that took place that you regretted and you could have changed as a
I
parent.
wish I would have, unfortunately, when he went off to college, and I think it happened before he went to college, he started smoking.
Mm.
And, in his younger years, he used to have asthma attacks on a regular basis. And then he was put on a medication called Singular. And that was like a miracle drug. Out of the blue, he stopped having asthma attacks. In fact, it was like I even forgot that he had asthma. When he was younger, we couldn't go anywhere without an inhaler. I used to have inhalers in every room of the house. I had an inhaler in my coat pocket. I had one in my purse,
Yes.
always ready for that emergency. That's just how bad it was. But once he was put on Singular, he had no problems at all. And then when he went to college, I remember getting a call about 3 or 4 in the morning, my sister calling me to let me know she was at the hospital with him. He had an asthma attack. Well, that asthma attack was brought on by smoking. I found that out, later on. I used to yell at him all the time. Why are you smoking? You have asthma. Why would you smoke and you have asthma? I would yell at him all the time. I wish I would have taken the time to communicate a little better, and I wish I would have sat down with him to explain my concerns instead of just yelling. Now, I will say my son was very intelligent. He researched everything. But so I never understood why he didn't really grasp the whole concept of what smoking would do. And something that I found out after he passed away was, because I actually took the time to do some research on asthma and smoking and all of that. And what I found out was that for every cigarette that you smoke, you're canceling out the medication. So you can take the inhaler all you want. It's not going to help you. And I can tell you, I remember when my son would take 2 puffs of his inhaler and he would be fine. He got to the point where he could take 10 puffs and it wasn't making a difference. And you could see his color. I remember one day looking at him and I asked myself, like, is he bleaching his skin? Because he looks so pale. Or what I realized, it was his body was deprived of oxygen, and that was from smoking. So for those of you out there who are asthmatic, please don't smoke. And if your children are asthmatic and you're a smoker, you might as well give your kids a cigarette, because it's damaging their lungs. Cigarettes,
Yes.
smoking, period, and asthma do not mix.
I empathize. I
Thank
totally
you.
understand because one of my prayers have been and is still that God, please don't let any of my children die before me.
I I
I
I can
don't
I
know.
can totally I can totally understand that it's the like I said, it's the worst thing that,
Yeah.
and I think subconsciously every time he smoked, that fear was always there because I remember standing next to him, in fact, days before he died, and
Mhm,
I could hear him wheezing. And I
mhm.
remember saying to him, "Your asthma is not under control." I'm like, Do you still have medication?" He said, "Yes, but I'll run out soon." And I remember my exact words was, "When I get my next paycheck, we'll get you some more medication." And he was dead I think, what, a week or so later.
Oh my gosh. Do you recall that you were saying any negative words to him? Because they say words are powerful.
I used to, like I said, I would get very frustrated with him because he didn't graduate from college. He was so close to getting his degree, and I was pretty angry with him about that.
Yeah.
And but by the grace of God, I remember, I want to say it was about 2 weeks before he died, God put it on my heart to have a conversation with him and my daughter.
Yeah.
We were having that conflict, two adult children and their mom.
Mhm.
And so I called them in my room and we had a talk. And, I really expressed what I was feeling to my son. And I remember him saying to me, "I don't think you love us anymore. You don't smile anymore." And I remember saying to him, "I feel as if I have the weight of the world on my shoulders
Oh,
because, what I was making, it wasn't enough to cover everything." So I
okay.
was explaining to them, like, we need to pull together to make this work. And I will never forget, after that conversation, he hugged me. He hugged me because he understood what I said. And he died about 2 weeks later
Oh my gosh.
you know so I'm thankful to God for that conversation because I was able to tell him, "I do love you guys." I said, "That's what has kept me going throughout this divorce process. It's like my children. That's why I'm pushing as hard as I am, because I want you to live in a decent neighborhood. I want you to have a decent life." I was able to have that conversation, and I'll never forget that hug.
Yes.
I'll never forget that hug as
Do
long
you?
as I live.
Yes. Do you think that he might have internalized your pain? And
I think to be honest with you, I think he just had some issues with depression. I
oh,
think the divorce, I think just things that a lot of young people go through. I
yes.
think he had some frustrations in life, and he didn't really articulate them to me anyway.
Mhm.
Um, I wish that he would have felt that he could have come to me and talked to me more,
Yes.
but I hindsight is always 2020.
Yes.
I did my best with the tools I had at the time. I think, it's like when I do my podcast, and I always think to myself, if he was alive, he'd be a part of that show. He would be a co-host. He would have let me do it without him.
Yes.
I think back to that, all the time. And I didn't realize how much alike we were until he died. When I was in high school, I had a love for English and English literature. I loved to write essays, and he was the same. He loved art. And, I just felt so sad, and I grieved that we didn't, just like with my father, the potential that our relationships had, and we never really got to see the full potential of what those relationships could have been.
Right. Right. Now it comes back. I'm going back to you being separated from your father at age 10, 11,
10, I was 10,
10
yes.
when you left for Jamaica. That in itself must have been some traumatic experience for you. You did not, oh, at what point do you think you came to full understanding of why your mother did what she did?
I understood even at the age of 10.
Oh, okay.
I actually understood even at the age of 10
Yeah,
because you know when something is wrong. You
yeah.
know, even at the age of 10, I
Mm-hmm.
knew what my mother was experiencing. You know, back then you didn't hear the words like domestic abuse. You didn't hear such words, you know, but that's what was happening. And it was traumatic. And I can tell you later on in life, you know, I could see where I had a distrust for men. You know, I was very angry, like in relationships. If if my partner tried to speak harshly to me or tried to get physical, I tell you what, they had hell on their hands because what I witnessed my mom go through, I told myself that will never be me. That will never be me. If you touch me, then oh my gosh, there will be a war. That was the mentality that I had, you
Yeah.
know, and it took me years, like my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, such a wonderful gentleman. You know, my uncles on both sides, you know, I could see a different side to manhood. And
Yes.
as life has progressed, I've met some friends like they've been lifelong friends
Mm-hmm.
where I got to see that, okay, not all men behave the same. You
Yeah.
know, the job that I have now, well, when I started there, I actually started in the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like, God, really, like, I've been praying for a job and this is where you put me.
Mm-hmm.
But that ended up being the best thing that could have happened for me because the manager there, he ended up being a mentor of sorts for me, a mentor for me. And the supervisor at the time, they were very kind to me because they understood I'd been through a lot mentally. And I got a lot of really good advice from them. And that's really helped me along the way. I mean, when when you're making mistakes and someone cares enough to tell you that you're making that mistake and they're not holding back and
Mm-hmm.
they're letting you know basically, look, if this person cared about you, they would not treat you this way.
Right.
You know, it's hard to hear that sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but when someone cares enough about you to be truthful,
Mm-hmm.
it can change your life. Because there are some people who will tell you these things, but they're telling you in a way to taunt you
Yes.
and in a way to hurt you. And then they're going to go gossip about it with other people. When someone is telling you because they want what's best for you, it's life changing.
Definitely. Definitely. I remembered for myself when I just got married, I told my husband, listen, if you ever beat me, I'll chop off your hand. I'll wait until you're sleeping and turn throw hot oil on you. I don't know if that was internalized and if it took me serious, but I
Well,
didn't,
you
you know.
it's you know what, no woman should live their lives that
No.
way. And I think as a man, if you don't know how to deal with your childhood issues or whatever it is, well, now we know about therapy. Back then people didn't talk about therapy. But
Yeah,
it's like, get some help. Don't take out your issues on your wife and children.
absolutely not. Yeah. And so maybe what happened here is that the childhood experience plus the adult experience has impacted so many of your experiences, your way of thinking, you know,
Yes.
and so on like that. Because I know that if we grew up, for me, I didn't grow up with my mother.
Yeah.
I think I'm just really coming out of my shell now. The person I was always, I think I was very sort of introverted,
Yes.
but now that I'm turning old lady and I have this attitude of don't care what anybody
Right.
to think, and I think I'm just making the mistakes that I have never made before.
Yeah. I
I'm just going
understand.
on, you know. But
I totally understand. I wish that, you know,
Mhm.
because I didn't have my father in my life for a long time. And
Right.
I wish that I would have had more of his influence, like before being married, to have
Yes.
an understanding of choosing the right spouse, having the right person in your life. And, what I would say to the women out there, when you decide to get married, you have to ask yourself, why are you getting married? You
Right.
know, I think that's such an important question. Are you getting married just for the sake of being married? Are
Yes.
you just in love with the idea of being married? You know, do you think, oh, there's a timeline? I bet if I'm not married by the age of 30, oh, I think it's such a huge decision. And I think you really have to be sure that you're with the right person. There's nothing wrong with being alone. It's better to be alone than to be with the wrong spouse.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. My life experience has made me the person I am today.
Yes.
My life wasn't very easy. When I look in retrospect, didn't grow up with my mother. I didn't think my stepmother was nice to me.
Yeah.
I live with my aunt. I experienced abuse, which I have really spoken about,
Yes.
and all of that. My entire life was one where God's favor
Yes.
was on my life. If I weren't a worshiper, as small as I was, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Because I believe that many people didn't expect me to become anyone.
Yes.
That's how it is. That's how my life was. Now, if you look back though, is there anything that you would want to change if you could?
If I could change, my son would be here.
Yeah.
But, I know that that's not possible.
Mhm.
And, getting to that point of acceptance. But, if I could change anything, really, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have made the mistakes that I've made in life, poor choices in men, not really being confident in myself, doing things for the wrong reason. It's like since I have really come into this relationship with God,
Mhm.
it's like what I've learned is that when a relationship isn't one-sided, it makes all the difference in the world. And when a relationship isn't forced, when it's a genuine, mutual, satisfying experience, that's how my relationship has been with God. So it's taught me, you don't chase behind people, you don't try to force connection. It has to come from the heart. God does not force us into relationship with Him. And that is what I have taken into life now. That is my new thing now, where, it's okay to be alone, and it's okay to take a step back from situations,
Mhm.
and not to, I think when I was younger, there was a level of desperation there. There was a level of not really understanding what love was,
Mhm.
and I had the whole concept of love wrapped up in to being in a relationship with a man. And it's
Mhm.
so much deeper than that.
It is. As you speak, I'm thinking of this. I didn't hear you say much about your mother.
My
Where?
mom is my rock. My mom is my, like, everything. My mom is, if I can be half the woman that my mom is from a family of strong women. My grandmother was, oh my gosh, such a wonderful grandmother. I have the most wonderful aunts. My
Mhm.
aunt Sylvia is like a second mother to me.
Yes.
And I can tell you, my mom, she
She
has
raised me.
been there for me. She has been there beyond the call of duty as a mother. I'm 60 years old, but it's like I'm still her baby in many ways.
Yes.
My children, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, when I think, like, I can tell you the day that my son died, I
Mhm.
know my mom hurt just as much as I did. you
Yes.
know, and I don't think she's ever gotten over that. But my mom is like the best mom. I know everyone thinks that about their mother, but I am so blessed to have the mother that I have and for my kids to have the grandmother that they have.
Yes, that's so good. Strong woman. And you are a strong woman too.
Thank you for saying that.
You're a strong woman. Um, so what do you do now then to relax? How do
To be
you
honest
relax?
with you, for me to relax now, it's just like when I finally go to bed in the evenings and I'll turn my television on, I'll have a book, or sometimes I play a stupid little game on my phone. you
Mhm.
know that's what I do in the evening. But like, I like to work out with friends. That's relaxing for me. Reading is very relaxing for me. I read every single day. I
It's
used to take long walks every day. I've not done that in a while. I need to get back into that because that was also very relaxing. But I've also found like sometimes something as simple as praying or even doing a prayer journal, writing and getting my feelings out on paper, that's also very relaxing.
yeah. Is there anything in your childhood experience that make you be the person you are today?
Yes, I think that because I grew up um when we left England, it was such a sudden departure. It's
Mhm.
like one day I was there, and then the next day I'm on my way to Jamaica. I didn't get to tell my friends goodbye.
Yes.
I didn't realize how much that affected me until like later in life. There was just so much that, I would always dream about the house we used to live in. I would be walking through the streets trying to find this house in my dreams. It was so
Yes.
weird.
Yes.
But it's like now, I've lived in 3 different countries. I look at it as a privilege. And I'm thankful for that experience in England. I'm thankful for the experience in Jamaica. And I'm thankful for the experience here.
Mhm.
And what I've come to realize is that, you know, like I believe my childhood was good. There
Mhm.
were some bad parts about it, but for the most part, I'm thankful for the life I've had.
Yes.
I'm thankful for those who have loved me. I'm thankful for the schools I've attended. I'm thankful for the friendships. I'm thankful for the family that I have. I just believe that, you know, I don't think there's an excuse to wallow in self-pity and not try to live your best life because of past experiences. It's just
Yeah.
an excuse, I believe. Some people, they're so bitter and angry because they don't let go of the past. I went through therapy for years, and I thank God for therapy because it really helped me to clear my head.
Yes. And I find that the more we talk about this,
Yes,
or you realize that you're not the only person who have experienced this, whatever
so
trauma
true.
it is, I look at people like Oprah Winfrey
Yes,
and all the other people who have experienced some sort of trauma, parents die, whatever it might be, and I lean on them, on what they have to say as a source of strength
yes,
go through.
yes.
And that's so important.
Stephanie, it's what you do with these things.
Hmm.
We all have highs and lows in life.
Yes,
Everyone would like to live on that high every day, but that's not realistic. I
absolutely.
think when you're in the lows, when you're in the valley,
Hmm.
that's a great opportunity for growth. And that's how I've come to see life. The low points have shaped me to a better person. If I hadn't lost a child, if I hadn't experienced a divorce and all of that, would I have seen life the way I do now? No, I wouldn't. I think I would have continued to take in things for granted, but it's like I have learned not to take anything for granted, not even a slice of bread. I'll put it like that.
Yes.
I don't take anything for granted. I've learned to have a whole new appreciation for people in life, but I've also learned to try to let go of trying to control the situations in my life. I've learned that it's okay to take that step back because sometimes God wants us to be still
Yes.
so that he can do what he does best.
Is there ever a time when you could say, I wish I didn't?
Yeah, I can honestly say that about getting married, I love my children. I'm
Yeah.
thankful for the children that came out of that union. But
Yes.
looking back, nah, I wish I hadn't married that individual.
Yes. I wish you had found somebody more compatible.
To be honest with you, yes, because looking back and it's like we had nothing in common. And I really think that was just immaturity on my part. Like I said, I'm love my kids more than I love myself. I love my children. I'm thankful for the children out of that union, but that's the one thing I wish I had not done.
Never done. Yeah.
And there's no bitterness on my part. I
Mhm.
can tell you that when I was going through my divorce, I had a lot of hatred in my heart for that man. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I had so much hatred in my heart. I had to really ask myself the question one day, like, is this the act of a Christian woman? Because I could truly say I had hatred in my heart. And I'd gotten to the point where I just wanted something bad to happen to him. I'm just being honest here.
Yes.
And my only prayer was when something bad happens to him, let me be there to witness it.
Oh gosh.
That's to show you how bitterness
Mhm.
and anger had
Yeah.
taken over my life. And there are
Yes.
some people who thrive on conflict.
Mhm.
There are some people who thrive on that. And I had to realize this is not you. And it took a little while to let it go. Do I like him? No, but I don't hate him anymore. But
Yes.
he's just one of those people that if I see him out in the street, if he waves, I may wave back, but that's about it.
That's about
That's about it.
not even one word.
No,
Yeah.
I have nothing to say. The last time I saw him, I felt bad for my daughter, but I explained to my daughter, she understood.
Yes.
It's like, nah, some people you just don't need in your life. Stephanie, there are some people that I believe they get a kick out of hurting other people.
Mhm.
And I think that there are some people, like they talk about with narcissists,
Right.
it's best
Mhm.
to go no contact.
Yes.
And it's the truth. That's for your own self-preservation. It's
Absolutely.
not nothing to do with anger and bitterness, but some people, you just don't need them in your life.
They're a narcissist. They trigger. They know how to trigger you and to get
Yeah, it's a
angry.
game. It's a
It's a
sick little
game for
game
them.
to them.
Yeah. I'm understanding so much of our conversation. Hmm. Is there an advice that you could give to our audience? What
I
is
would
your
say, I would say, all things begin with God. Love God. Trust God with all your heart, all your soul. When you love God, when you trust God, I think it helps you to love yourself. And I think it helps you to love others. And when you learn to trust God, you're learning to do things in his strength, not with it, because there are some things that we try to do it on our own.
Mhm.
And, we need God. We need God. I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how successful you are. We
Mhm.
all need God. And I think it all starts there. And truly to love yourself. I think too many of us, we put ourselves in situations in spite of seeing the red flags.
Mhm.
But you think, oh, I can change this person. No, we can't change anyone. People change because they want to, not because they're forced or manipulated. We have to let people be who they are. I think that a lot of us would be better off if we really understood that.
Mhm.
Focus on yourself, love yourself.
Mhm.
Because if you don't know how to love yourself, how can you expect to love anyone else? And how can you expect other people to love you? It
Yeah,
begins with you loving yourself.
absolutely. Absolutely. So in putting everything to conclusion, we can say that our life is a favor from God, and we're
Yes.
recognizing its various blessings. We have to be grateful
Yes.
opportunities and abilities that He has given us. We have to use them. We have to take time to have a relationship and a connection to God, and to grow spiritually, to have resilience, to be kind, and to be mindful of others.
I definitely agree with you on that, Stephanie. And I tell you, it's like in life, it's how we treat other people, you
Right.
know, how we treat other people, how we treat ourselves, because there are so many people filled with self-hatred. You
Yes.
know, it's just about learning to accept yourself and, you know, to be grateful for your blessings, no matter how small. Because if you can't appreciate the small blessings, how can you appreciate the big ones? We
Right.
have to show God our gratitude.
Right. And I can remember my grandmother saying, "Today for you, tomorrow for me."
Yes,
And there's another quote that says, "Remember the person you see on your way up, going up, because that's the same person who you may need help from on your way coming down."
it's the truth. Listen, I've seen it too many times. People who have accomplished a lot in life. I'm happy for them. But
Yes.
there's never an excuse to try to step on other people or to you know, to make other people feel bad about where their life is. But I think we all have to learn. If you live in a shack, be thankful for that shack.
Yes.
You know, be thankful for whatever it is that God has blessed you with. You don't know what God has in store for you tomorrow, you know? So let's be thankful for today.
Again, thank you everyone for watching. I would invite you to visit and to support Bree's channel. Her channel is called Heart to Heart with Bree. Her program airs at 7 p.m. on Sunday, and it's live also on Facebook and on YouTube.
Thank you for that, Stephanie.
Thank you everyone for watching, and see you again in the living room.
Thank you for having me as a guest.
Thank you, Bree. Thank you so much.
Take care. Good night.
Good night. God bless.